time because I guess about 6 months ago I started watching quantum physics videos, and I was just blown away by how there are certain videos out there where they explain the concepts really simply, but that they were so similar to the experiences that I did have. The concept of multiple universes is now an accepted concept in quantum physics. The concepts of past and present happening now, they're accepted concepts. And I'm naturally a left-brain person. And I grew up and my father was a dentist, and we went to school, and and physics, it was all left brain. And it took me years and years of training to get any kind of right brain awareness. But I always default back to the left brain. And anytime there's any time I can take the experiences that I'm having and see if I can substantiate it in any way, shape, or form, I'm excited to do that. And what I have here, I will admit, is a stretch. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and draw a calculation on the page and say, see, it's all proof. It's a stretch. There's no question about it, what I'm about to say, and what I'm about to show you. And I'm hoping you can play with me a little bit and look at these things without getting too far in our heads and too far worried about whether what I'm saying is absolutely true or not true, or proven or not proven, and let's just play. And before we do, a couple of people came up with some really good questions, and we're going to take questions. I'm not sure exactly when. I guess in a little while we'll all take questions and go from there. But they were good questions about visualization, and they were similar questions. So I figured two people came up with the same kind of question. I want to just address it right now, and that is that the first person came up and wanted to know if visualizing specifically what you want versus visualizing this feeling, is that something that along the journey that you want to start there and then kind of go from there. And I can tell you from my own experience that that's exactly the way it was for me, is that I feel like inadvertently, without even trying, just over time, there were skills that were developed through cause and effect, through visualizing specifically what I want, became like a skill. And I do think that it's probably true that in the path, when you go down the path of using the power of your mind and visualizing, whether it's for your health or for life, what you want, that it's a skill that you get better and better at, and that in the beginning it is really appropriate to try to visualize the specific thing that you want. And then it's possibly a natural progression. It was for me. It's for other people that I've read also a natural progression that you go from there to being open to the universe. And then the other question I had along that same line is, how do you open to the universe, and what is it specifically you ask for? And I'll just share that, since I'm sharing things that I've never shared before in public. I'll share specifically what I do in the morning when I have my energy channels are open and flowing, and I know that from how I feel. So when I start meditating, I can maybe get some movement here, some awareness of like some lights flowing here. And then eventually I can feel it moving up my legs and down my body, and eventually I can feel it in different parts of my body, and then eventually I actually feel like I've been transported into a world where the entire atmosphere is bright light by doing this. So it's not like that when I start. When I start, it's just all, I don't want to say dark, it's just not all happening. It's the lights are off, But I get to this place where once it starts flowing in me, I'm transported to an awareness that there's bright light everywhere. And then I allow that into my body, and my whole body is vibrating with that frequency. And so I know I'm open as I'm going to be. There's nothing, I can feel the whole thing's glowing, And then that's when I ask the universe to work through me. So for years, I used to say, please guide me, please guide me, please guide me. And at a certain point I said to myself, why should I ask the universe to guide me? Like, why don't I just ask it to work through me? I said, look, I have a body, I have this, I'm in this physical world, work through me. You don't have to guide me, I don't care what it is. Don't tell me what it is, it's not my business. You can work through me. And so at the end of the meditation, what I would say, once I know it's all glowing, and we're going to try something like this in a little while, after we do this little fun exercise, quantum physics exercise, which I think is fun, but a little bit geeky, maybe it's not fun, I don't know. But when I'm in that place, I say this specifically, and I've been saying this probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 years at least. I just say, I say to my higher self, so whatever that means for you, God, my guardian angel, whatever higher self. For me, higher self means the higher energies that want to work through us, but can only work through us once we're open and flowing. You know, like Robert's higher energies can be even higher because that energy can go through him because he's more open. It's like even a higher energy. But our higher energies, whatever that means, whatever, and what I mean by that is the highest, most good energies that I can channel given my capacity, how open I am. And I say, please speak through me, act through me, think through me, feel through me. I say, let every thought I have be you thinking through me. Every action I take be you acting through me. Every word I speak be you speaking through me. Every feeling I have be you feeling through me. Please speak through me, act through me, think through me, feel through me. Please open up my energy channels and radiate your love and your light into this body and out into the world according to your will and your agenda. And after I say that, I feel like this explosion of light going through my body. And that's how I start my day. And then I'm not too concerned about how my day's going to go because I've already done the work as far as I'm concerned. I've first done the work to make it possible for the higher energies to come through because they're not going to be able to come through if your channels are not open, and that's for your sake, not the universe, because you could get blown up. When I had that experience after 5 days, I couldn't channel it. I was in the hospital for 10 days afterwards. It's for your benefit. Not, the universe doesn't like you not as much as the next guy. It's if you're open, yeah, you become like a glove that the universe can stick its fingers in. So for your benefit, it's all going to be as much as you have. But the work is to make the connection, to open the channels, so that it can go through. To make the connection, and then to ask. You still have to ask. That's my experience too, is that those higher energies that can work through you, that are you, or however you conceive of the universe, everybody has a different way of feeling it. It's like imagine 10 blind men in a room with an elephant. They're all feeling it, and one person's going to feel the ear and say it's a fan, another person's going to feel the trunk and say it's a snake, another person's going to feel the leg and say it's a tree. However we're feeling this thing, you have to ask. You have to, and it's not enough to ask either if you haven't done the work to make it possible. So there's 3 things you have to do. You have to do the work so that the energy has a mechanism to run through you. You have to then make the connection, and you have to ask. And I find when I do that that's my day, that's my job. And then all these other things happen. I've been more productive in the last 12 years than I've been in my whole life combined, between books and things that I've done, and I'm not even a writer. I hate writing. I went to the University of Pennsylvania for 5 years. I studied economics, I studied physics, took photography. I only had one criteria, and that was that I wouldn't have to write a paper. And I only wrote a paper twice. Once I had to because in English, I had to write a paper in English. And the other one, I only took because it was a guaranteed A. And I got a B. I was the only person I ever heard in that class get it. That test was packed. Everybody took that class. Standing room only. Got a B. So I hated it. I passed up, this is a true story, at Penn. I passed up the opportunity to go to the Cannes Film Festival. All expenses paid for 2 weeks to watch movies in France. And I didn't do it because it would mean I'd have to write 10 pages about a movie. I'm like, how can you write 10 pages about a movie? What is it like? Guy gets died, he dies, he saves it, what, you know?
Just watch me.
But all of a sudden, I'm writing like 20, 30, 40, 50 pages a day. You know, it's just, this is what's happening, it's coming through. And that comes from doing the work, to making the connection, to making it possible for the energy to come through, which is the work that Robert and Stig are teaching us. And the visualization that I'll do in a little while makes it possible. You make the connection, you ask. And that's your life's work. And then you're living your life's purpose, and you don't even know what that purpose is. Because you've already asked for it to work through you. Anyway, so, like I said, if we can just play for a minute, the thing, when I started watching all this quantum physics videos, is that they're saying things that were my experience, that we are living in, that there are many, infinite number of parallel universes. And it's something we'll talk about in a second. But the universe is just all vibration. It's not real. There's even a theory in quantum physics right now that's called the peekaboo theory. Do you know what the peekaboo theory is? The peekaboo theory, and these are the greatest mathematical minds in the world. And this is not a theory that's being poo-pooed. The peekaboo theory is that the universe only exists when you're looking at it. That is the peekaboo theory from the greatest mathematical minds in the world. And it's not a universally accepted that that's what it is, but it's also not being poo-pooed. So this is a couple little video clips I had that kind of illustrate how crazy the world is and how different it is than we perceive it. So I just want to play this one right now. This was the study that started quantum physics. And as you'll see, that quantum physics is more metaphysical than anything you've ever seen in metaphysical teachers. You know, or philosophy. You get these gurus that come down from the mountain and they say it's all an illusion, you know, but then they've got like 13 Rolls Royces, and like a whole sex colony somewhere, you know, it's all illusion. And you're like, okay, maybe it's illusion, maybe not. But when you get the greatest mathematical minds in the world who don't want to say this, the last thing a physicist wants to say is that there's no physical universe, right? It's like a doctor saying, you know, there's no doctoring. Like, sorry, thank you very much, we just discovered there's no doctoring. Doctors can't do anything, sorry. The greatest physical minds these are people that don't want to say this, are saying that the universe may only exist when we're looking at it. I just want to play a couple of quick clips about this, and relate it then to what I'm talking about how we can change the universe, when in reality what we're doing is we're bringing our energy to a higher universe, is what we're really, and that's where I'm going with this.
And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double-slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now, there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a screen through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. We get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they can interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits and it goes through another. And it goes through just one and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never-world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
However, the double hole experiment's mind-boggling conclusions don't end there. In recent years, technology has allowed scientists to perform a fascinating variation of the test. Its results call into question our perception of time itself.
This is like a high-tech version of the double hole experiment. Electrons are being fired toward a barrier with two holes in it. But the scientists can delay their decision about whether to observe the electrons until after they've passed through the holes, but before they hit the screen. It's as though I'm on a baseball field, and there's a baseball being pitched toward the barrier with the holes in it. But my eyes are closed, so it goes through, and it behaves like a wave, but then, at the last second before it hits the screen, I open my eyes and decide to observe it.
At that moment, the electrons, in essence, become particles, and seemingly always were particles from the time they left the electron gun.
So it's as though they went back in time to before they went through the holes and decided to go through one or the other, not through both as they would have had they been behaving like waves. That's really crazy.
That's the enigma. That our choice of what experiment to do determines the prior state of the electron. Somehow or other we've had an influence on it which appears to travel backwards in time.
So just to sum up what's happening there, basically, and this apparently applies to all particles of matter, When we're not looking at them, they're waves of energy. If we look at them, they become waves of energy. Even if they become particles by looking at them. Even if they have to go backwards in time to do that. So in that experiment, once it passed through the slit, it committed to either being a wave or a particle. So if you're not looking at it when it passes through the slit, it's a wave. And then if they look at it then, it goes backwards in time. Just for you to become a particle. To create the illusion of a particle, when in reality, it's all just vibration. What's that? Once you look at it, it becomes a particle. That's what's happening. It doesn't matter when. As soon as you look at it, for you, the universe becomes a particle for you. And that's why the greatest minds in the world have a theory called the peekaboo theory. That the universe does not exist unless you're looking at it. That's the only thing that makes the universe real. And it's not the only theory out there. There's two competing, but in some ways synchronous theories. One is the peekaboo one, and the other is that we are in an infinite number of parallel universes, a multiverse, infinite number of universes. And in fact, mathematically that explains certain things. Apparently these particles that are inside our body that look so solid to you and me are not only waves of energy. So if I'm looking at you, you're over there and I'm over here. You're solid and I'm solid. But in reality, if you look inside the particles inside my body, or yours, they are not solid, they're waves of energy, and they are not only inside my body, but at the same time as they're inside my body, they are all over the universe at the same time, and all over an infinite number of multi-universes at the same time. It's just we have five senses that, as we talked about before, we have a very small version of what we see is like one 10,000th of what's really out there. What we really have is a computer that's making up this universe. Because if you look at what a computer has certain fundamental components. It has computer chips. All computers have computer chips to house memory and processing. Those chips are either on or they're not. That's how they work. The computer chips are either on or off, right? And then you have software that programs the computer. The software is always based on a binomial code of a long string of zeros and ones to make up a code, and that's software. If you look inside our body, we have a brain. Our brain functions just like computer chips. The brain cells are either firing or not firing, just like computer chips. And then inside their cells, we have a long string of a binomial code called DNA. Zeros and ones, zeros and ones, zeros and ones, zeros and ones, which we know very, very little about. 90-some% of DNA we call junk DNA, right? It's junk, simply because we don't know about it and we just assume it's junk. But at the same time, when you shave your arm, how does your body know that your hair just got shaved? And how does your body know to let your hair grow that much longer again? How does that happen? We don't know. When a baby is conceived, how do the cells know to be a liver cell, or a kidney cell, or a brain cell? How do they all come together? We don't know any of that stuff. It's all a code. What we should be looking at our DNA is computer programmers, not biologists, because it's a big, long computer program. But part of the computer program is us perceiving that you're over there and I'm over there, and that's not the truth. That is not a fact. There's no quantum physicist in the world that will say that that's true. Not one. And the other version of this is that these particles are going all through an infinite number of universes. And that's the part I want to talk about right now. Question. Oh, this is from Linda. Linda Jacobs over here. Raise your hand. I just thought this was cute. This is water. Because the vibration is not only levitating the water, but it's affecting the shape of different vibrations. And I thought, how could that happen unless the matter was vibrations too? Like, how does a vibration affect something physical unless the physical is a vibration too? So I thought that was cute. We're all vibration. changes just on the vibration. I just thought that was. I think it's levitating. I think it's actually, yeah. Okay. So now, this is Max Tegmark. He's a quantum physicist talking about parallel universes. I thought this was interesting.
There's a third kind of parallel universes which have come into this.
You can tell he's struggling, you know, because he really doesn't want to say this. He studied that, you know. He doesn't want to say what he's about to say, and you could see it.
Scientific discussion from studying not the biggest things, but from studying the smallest things. By studying quantum mechanics, the rules that govern how atoms and elementary particles behave. This is arguably the most successful theory in all of science. It's given us transistors, computers, cell phones, lasers, etc. But at the cost of some weird ideas, quantum mechanics tells
He's struggling.
that little particles can be in several places at once. If the particles can be in several places at once, well, I'm made of these particles. I should be able to be in several places at once as well. And in 1957, a young graduate student named Hugh Everett worked this out really carefully and argued that what it really means is that there's a third kind of parallel universes where when you make certain decisions, effectively our world splits into several parallel tracks. If I get a parking ticket, there's a parallel universe maybe where I didn't. But there's another parallel universe maybe where my car was stolen instead. So you win some, you lose some. This sounds very philosophical, but it's the way to test this, again, is not by speculating, but by studying quantum mechanics more. In particular, we should try to build quantum computers, which is a kind of machine which takes advantage of parallel computation and effectively using these parallel worlds. If we try to build them, and there are millions and millions of dollars spent right now to try to do so, if it fails, because we notice that the basic equation of quantum mechanics is wrong, then we can forget about all these parallel universes. But if they succeed, and they can calculate something in 5 minutes that would take longer than the age of our universe to do on a normal computer, I think that will make many scientists take these parallel universes more seriously.
Okay, that was 2014 when he said this. Now since then, you recall what he said, that if we could make these quantum computers, they basically take advantage of parallel universes. In other words, these are computers that what they do is the particles go into parallel universes to do the computation and come back. And he said that if a quantum computer could do, in theory, in 5 minutes, what it would take another computer the whole history of time, 13 billion years to do, could do a calculation like that in 5 minutes. Why? Because it goes outside of time. And when you're outside of time, you can be outside of time forever. You could spend an infinity outside of time and come back 5 minutes later. Anyway, that was 2014, and he's basically saying that if we could make these quantum computers, and if they work, that means that there's parallel universes. If they don't work, then it's not. 2014. Since then, both Google and the Department of Defense have created quantum computers. Wow. They each spent $30 million each. The quantum computers function. I don't know how powerful they are. They say that at some point in the next 5 years, they'll be so powerful that a regular computer would require every single particle in the universe to do the type of calculations that they can do just like in a couple of minutes. Like theoretically, it would be impossible because it would have to use every particle in the universe. Anyway, that was 2014. There are now 2 quantum computers that are in existence and are doing calculations. The 2 people that you really want to have them the most, Google and the Department of Defense.
Right.
They have it, and now I just want to tell you, this is a more recent version from a physicist talking about that thing.
And David Deutsch, who's a physicist at the University of Oxford, says that what the quantum computer does is it exploits parallel realities, it exploits copies of itself in parallel universes. So, when you set a quantum computer a problem, it splits into multiple copies of itself in parallel realities. They all work on threads of their calculation, and they come back together again with the answer. So he says the quantum computer is something entirely new under the sun. It's the first thing we've ever invented that exploits parallel universes.
So So we're actually now exploiting parallel universes. So the idea is it's no longer a theory. It is part of the mechanics of our world. So if you look at a modern day quantum physicist, there's the way these are the greatest mathematical minds. They're going to tell you that the particles that exist in our body are just vibrations. There are vibrations all over the universe and all over multiple universes. And they're all happening now in space-time now with no past, no future. It's all happening in the present. It's just our mind that makes it something, a completely different show. The reason why I'm doing all this is because I'm making a point that what I think is happening when you visualize something happening and it happens, I think in The Secret, Jack Cranfield, Cornfield? Cranfield? Talked about how he visualized selling 100,000 copies of Chicken Soup for the Soul. That's what he visualized. He's doing it his first year. And he did that. So the traditional kind of like law of attraction type of idea is that you're somehow taking your mind, the power of your mind, and you're manifesting that, like manifesting 100,000 copies sold. How's that happening? What makes much more sense to me over the years of trial and error is that our particles are moving through parallel universes all the time. And when we change our vibration and our intention and our beliefs and we do a series of things, we go to the universe where that happens. And it's happening all the time, we don't even know it. So Jack Canfield went to the universe where he's selling 100,000 copies. I went to the universe where The Secret contacted me and said, can I publish your book? I think we have the ability, through intention, through being aware of our vibration, and looking at our vibration as life force energy, and maximizing our vibration by opening our channels and channeling it, and then creating an intention to actually go to the place where that's happening. I know it's crazy, it's probably wrong, but it just like, it excites me, and there's this possibility, you know, that you can't refute it, you can't poo-poo it. There's another theory in quantum physics right now, that there's just one electron in the entire universe. If you think about what an electron is, so every single atom in your body, trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of atoms, even in your thumb, every one of them has anywhere from 1 to 10 different electrons. So the number of electrons in the universe is inconceivable. There's a theory in quantum physics, it's the greatest math minds, left-brain math minds, but there's just one electron in the universe. One. And it's going backwards and forwards in time an infinite number of times. Each time it goes forwards, it's an electron. Each time it goes backwards, it's a positron. And what amazes me about that theory is not whether or not it's true. It probably isn't. But the greatest minds in the world are not dismissing it. That they're actually sitting there saying, yeah, maybe there's just one electron in the universe. So this idea, for me, that we're going through these multiple universes, something that Google and the Department of Defense are now capitalizing on. It's not a theory anymore. They're actually taking advantage of it. So this theory, this idea that we're moving through universes, to me, is very possible. And it's something that you can explore by raising your vibration to try to get to the best universe possible. And that's why I say you can change the world through doing this type of work. Because you can change your vibration and go to the world where that thing doesn't exist, in theory. The war or the pollution or whatever it is, maybe. You can influence that consciously. And I'm going to get a little bit more crazy, and then I promise that's it, okay? Has anybody ever heard of the Mandela effect? Good. I love the fact, Joey, my brother, gets a earful of me all the time. I love the fact that not many people have heard of the Mandela effect. Because it's interesting, and I want to present it to you. So there was, so when Nelson Mandela died in 2013, I had this thought, just a random thought. I go, I thought he was dead already. I remember him dying in the 90s in prison. And I remember this kind of a lawsuit between Winnie Mandela and the state, the whole public. And I remember thinking, what a shame, you know, that had to happen, all this kind of stuff. But he didn't die then. He died in 2013. I didn't think anything of it. But apparently, there's millions and millions of people who had the same thought. And they gave it a name. They called it the Mandela effect. And what a lot of people believe is that sometime after 2012, a lot of people, millions and millions of people, just did this mass shift from one universe to another without knowing it. And some people even target, you know, the Mayan calendar ended in the December 21st, 2012. It's the end of, we all heard about that, right? It was like, all you know. Some people think that for a lot of us, the universe ended and we blew ourselves up. And who knows, but it's just because coincidentally what happened at that time was that CERN, which is the particle collider, the huge particle collider in Europe, they started doing experiments. They did for the first time. They did an experiment on what's called a Large Hadron Collider, where they collide these particles with a specific intention. They were trying to open up portals to other universes. They were trying to create these mini black holes that would create a portal between one universe and the other by colliding particles. And Stephen Hawking, who at the time, or always was, the world authority on black holes, he discovered Hawking radiation, which is the radiation on a black hole that led us to believe that the universe is actually holographic. That's another thing. The universe is holographic according to physicists. FYI. But anyway, Stephen Hawking said that CERN has the ability to blow up the universe. What they're doing can annihilate the universe. This is what he said. So they did these experiments from December 17th to December 21st, 2012. That was when this experiment ended. And all these kind of weird things happened for a lot of people. So there's about like 50 or 100 weird things for some of us. Not for all of us, because it didn't happen for all of us, right? Because we're all living in different universes. But for some of us, there's like these weird things that aren't the way we remember them. And like I said, there's 50 or 100. Some of them, for some people, are like, yes, that can't be right. And for me, I picked a couple, just 5 of them, I think, that for me are like, no, that's not the way it was. You know, and I want to share them with you, just to see if you have any similar recollection. This I'm going to pass on. This is just, I don't know what this is. Yeah, this is just talking about how at the dawn of time, physicists are saying that there was 10 to the 5, at the time of the creation of the universe, there was 10 to the 500 other universes created at the same time. That's a 10 followed by 5 zeros. It's a lot of zeros. 500, sorry, 500 zeros. That's how many universes were created at the time of, doesn't matter, that creation. But anyway, let me go to, okay. Let's start with this one. This is a couple of things that just don't sound right to me anymore. So I'm not a biblical scholar, but we've all kind of heard the phrase, the something and the lamb shall lie down together. Anybody heard that? What is that?
It's a lion.
The lion. The lion and the lamb shall lay down together. Isaiah 6. And the lion and the lamb shall lay down together. Well, apparently, if you check your Bible now, it's not the lion and the lamb. It's the wolf and the lamb. That's the truth. Oh, so what I did was, because I'm not a Bible scholar, I looked at videos of other people that are Bible scholars, and to see what they had to say. So I came up with a couple of little juicy ones.
You need to know, or I need to remind you, that I studied under Dr. Gene Scott for almost 30 years, and have carried on his message an additional 8 years. And I base my scholarship on Dr. Scott's scholarship and teaching, as well as on my own research and study that I've done independently. In Isaiah 11, most everybody's familiar with this. They may not know it as Isaiah 11. But the question is, what shall lay down with the Lamb? At home, answer out loud.
Lion.
The lion shall lay down with the lamb, etc. Now in this reality it says, the wolf shall lay down with the lamb. And again, like I said before, check it out.
Oh, great, awesome. So I have some questions as if I am a believer.
And I just had a question. Do you remember that scripture from Isaiah 11:6 by heart about certain animals shall live with the lamb?
Lion shall lay down with the lamb.
Okay, yeah,
What are you talking about?
yeah, that one. So do you remember, like, have you actually read that one? Like, do you remember actually reading it for yourself with your own eyes in Isaiah 11:6?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I always thought, because the lion represented, like, the, Jesus, the lion of the tribe of Judah, and the lamb was like us, the saints. So what's really odd is that my Bible doesn't say lion. Like, no Bible says lion anymore. It says wolf. Did you know that?
Well, I mean, okay, hang on just 1 second. Let me go through my concordance. Okay,
Bible scholars.
this is in the Revised Standard Version. The wolf shall do up well with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the cat, the lion, the fattened together. The little child shall lead them. Cow and the bear shall feed, their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. Okay?
Jeopardy?
The key is know your own Tanakh, know your own scriptures. If you could look at the great passages of Ezekiel and Isaiah that tell us exactly what will occur, the lamb will lie with the lion.
Going to be 1,000 years of perfect peace when the lion shall lay down with the lamb. Think about that.
Let's think about that. All the greatest Bible scholars are saying the lion shall... I remember when Woody Allen wrote the book Without Feathers. I was 10 years old. I loved that book. It was very funny. And he said, the lion shall lay down with the lamb, but the lamb won't get much rest. So these things have changed. And before when I had that experience, I could see people as I was talking to them, their past and their future were changing. It's all happening right now. Here's another one. I don't know if I have the exact order. But we all saw Snow White when we were a little kid. Something, something on the wall, who's the fairest one of all? Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all? Who doesn't know that, right?
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest one?
It's a magic mirror. She never said mirror, mirror on the wall in Snow White. Never said it. It's a magic mirror now in this reality. Here's another one. Let's run through this. Let me see if I got the right one. Okay. We are the champions. You know Queen? So how does the song end? So we are no time for losers, 'cause we are the champions. Dun, dun.
Of the world.
Of the world. We all know that. It's not like that anymore. The song ended, and what I love about this clip is they're all waiting for it. Right now, in this reality, it doesn't end that way, it just ends. It goes, 'cause we are the champions, dun, dun, and it just ends. And I love this clip because they're all waiting for it, every single one of them. We all know this.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So there's these little things. This one is mind-blowing. If there's anyone that says they remember this, then you own this universe, because I'm not from this universe. Oh, this one. The Wizard of Oz. The Scarecrow. Did he have any kind of self-defense something? A firearm maybe?
A what?
A 6-gun revolver? How about a 6-gun shooter? Did the Wizard of Oz have a 6-gun shooter? Because to me, if he had a 6-gun shooter, what's he afraid of the monkeys for? Or the wizard, he can blow them off the screen, right? In this reality, for those of you that are new to it, welcome. The Wizard of Oz is packing, or the Scarecrow is packing. The Scarecrow, sorry, the Scarecrow. Was I saying was it Scarecrow? The Scarecrow. Scarecrow's packing. Watch this.
Film this Wizard of Oz sequence on my mobile phone, just to show that it's definitely. So this is on my TV now.
It'll come clear in a minute.
I just wanted to show that he definitely has the gun. There you go. You can see it there.
See it better now.
And that it's not a manipulated YouTube clip, because I've had some people say that.
Oh.
Look at that. What's he doing with a gun?
Second Amendment.
What's that? Second Amendment. That's what it is. This is a Second Amendment friendly parallel universe. Okay. This one I just remember from school. Not everybody. There's something of Dorian Gray. Portrait of Dorian Gray. I remember being Portrait of Dorian Gray. Apparently it's not Portrait of Dorian Gray. It's Picture of Dorian Gray. And it's always been Picture of Dorian Gray. But here's a movie from a Marilyn Monroe movie from the 1950s where they're talking about the Portrait of Dorian Gray.
In my head, I've been thinking about that Paul lesson. And I came up with the notion. What would you think about a 25-cent reprint of the portrait of Dorian Gray?
The portrait of Dorian Gray?
It's a natural, Shannon. Look what we'll be giving them for water.
And now, here's a lady giving her review of her favorite book. So keep in mind, this is one of her favorite books. Okay, The Portrait of Dorian Gray.
Is Oscar Wilde and Bram Stoker. These guys are a duo of gothic wonderment. Dracula is the big daddy of vampire stories. You know the drill, don't go out in Transylvania after dark. And the Portrait of Dorian Gray, that story of narcissism.
She's calling it The Portrait of Dorian Gray. She read it. It's one of her favorite books. She's doing a review on it.
She's holding the book with the title on.
The title says The Picture. The title says The Picture of Dorian Gray. She's got the name of the book wrong, and this is her favorite book.
Gone terribly awry. It's filled with the most beautiful language and storytelling you will ever come across. Sumptuous Gothic horror does not get better than these guys.
And then here, I found this on Amazon, The Portrait of Dorian Gray. But if you look it up, it's called The Picture of Dorian Gray. Okay, and I just have one more. Let me just get it set up. I just have one more. And these are all ones to me like, no way, like there's no way the Scarecrow's got a gun, you know? And it's not the wolf and the lamb, you know? It just like, there's these little things, but we don't think about it. We end up going into another place. And to me, it's kind of a comforting feeling too, I'll tell you why. Because my guess is that every time we blow ourselves up, and we're probably doing it all the time, we just instantly go into another universe and we don't know the difference. So as long as you take care of your energy, you keep your energy high and vibrant, every time the universe blows up, you end up in a good place. Anyway, one more for you. So you remember the guy, you know, who was the famous talk show host, who used to come to your door and deliver a big check for Publishers Clearinghouse? Anybody remember that? Who was that? Edwin Man. And what did he do? Did he come to your door? Do you remember that? He'd come to your door with a big check? Yeah. And it was Publishers. Do you remember Publishers Clearinghouse also? Yeah. Apparently, when Ed McMahon died, everybody said, who's going to deliver the checks for Publishers Clearinghouse? And they had to do a whole big article about it, I don't know, it was Forbes or someone, and say that Ed McMahon never delivered checks for Publishers Clearinghouse. He never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. He made some commercials for a company that I never heard of called American Family Publishers. I never heard of them. And the people that delivered checks for Publishers Clearinghouse were called, I don't know, the Publishers Clearinghouse Check Team or something like that. A bunch of people I've never seen before with balloons. And he's never done this. But at the same time, there's all this residual stuff that I'll show you that I think is really, really compelling.
Guess what?
This is somebody talking about it.
Remember that? You must just be misremembering because it never happened. Ed McMahon never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. He never went to see people's homes in a prize van delivering those giant checks. So if you remember that, welcome to the wacky world of the Mandela effect. Nice to have you. Current history shows that Ed McMahon worked for American Family Publishers from 1993 till about 1998 after they filed for bankruptcy. The problem? A lot of people out there have never even heard of American Family Publishers. Just one day, poof, out of nowhere, they popped up in our history. In fact, not only was he the spokesman for American Family Publishers, but they claimed he never left the studio to surprise families announcing they won. In short, he never went to families' homes holding a giant check saying, "Congratulations, you're the winner of these sweepstakes." They claim it never happened. That's according to Forbes, which wrote an entire article about it, because apparently everyone remembers Ed working for Publishing's Clearinghouse.
Watch this. Johnny Carson, right? On David Letterman.
I have to apologize. I thought this was the Joe Franklin studio. Tell you why I'm here. I happen to be in town over doing some stuff for the NBC affiliate.
That's right.
And you know, Ed McMahon, our good friend, could not be here. But it seems, David, that you are the $1 million winner.
Oh my God! I won a million!
Can you see the check says Publishers Clearinghouse? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Well, Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon worked side by side for 30 years. You would think that at least he knew what company he worked for, aside from the fact that he didn't actually deliver the checks. You'd think he knew that, right? Roseanne. So this is Ed McMahon delivering the check, okay?
Fran, you won our special Halloween jackpot.
Okay. What is a refrigerator, a poolside dressing room, and Ed McMahon?
A refrigerator, a poolside dressing room, and Ed McMahon.
What is an Amana, a cabana, and a famous second banana?
Normal everyday money. Where did you get all of this? See, Lucky ate your wallet. No, it was Ed McMahon. He stopped by to tell me I won the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. He
Everybody
gave me a
remembers
check, but I asked for it all in singles. No, forget it.
This is Ed McMahon is doing a rap with his own commercial about delivering checks.
Shout out to my people. This is Ed McMahon, rolling slow through the suburbs in an unmarked van. I ran the strip in the 80s, brought big fat checks to the ladies. When I showed up at their door, they would start screaming like crazy. Raising it in hand over fist, was on the VIP list. I was a verbal gunslinger, and my shots never missed. But now the bills have come due, and my credit score's whacked. So I'm hitting up the winners to get my checks back. Ed McMahon, remember I gave you that big check? I'd like to have that check back. I'm having some stuff would help a lot. Just a little bit.
Mr.
Abruzzo, I'm here with the neighborhood watch.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, no. I'm signing up for the neighborhood watch.
Where are you going, Mr. McMahon?
Check with the lady next door.
Oh, and look at this. These are the people that deliver Publishers Clearinghouse checks. Who is this guy? I've never, and the thing is, I don't know about you, but look at the check, right? Is that the way you remember the check? No, right? What do you remember, like a long check, right? What is this thing? It's like a postage stamp. This is the reality that we're living in. And so the take home is that number one, the take home is that the greatest minds in our universe that are not bound by their five senses, right? Their math is like another sense. It's not fooled. It's not interpreted by some computer software. The greatest minds in the world are saying that we are just waves of energy. We're just particles all over the universe and all over multiple universes. That multiple universes exist and that we can make computers based on them to do computations. And what's likely, based on when you start looking around, we're probably moving through universes all the time. And I say, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But we have nothing to lose by being conscious about this and making a conscious effort to go to the highest universe possible by doing the types of practices that we're doing. And so I just want to create a scenario. Let's say, and this is all just supposition, let's just again, I'm just playing, right? And my thing is, if it's not going to hurt you, there's no downside, why not be explorers? Be energetic explorers. Let's be pioneers. Let's consciously do this. So if you look at all the universes, if you were to stack them up like a big ocean of universes, from the worst possible universe to the best possible universe, it's almost like an ocean. And if you look at an ocean, what's going on in an ocean? In an ocean, the further down you go, the darker it is. The more pressure there is. The less you can see. It's painful. It's crushing. The higher up you go in an ocean, the nicer it is, the more pleasant, the more friendly, the open or light it is. Eventually you get to the top of the ocean, you can breathe. It's sunny. As an analogy, you can imagine every universe that you could possibly be in, 10 times 500 universes. This is the worst one. Who can imagine what that's like? These are pretty bad too. This is getting better and better. This is amazing. Which one are you in? And why? What controls that? Well, I don't know, but I have a thought about it. And that is that if you look at an ocean, what controls where you are going to be in that ocean? How deep you are, or how high you are in that ocean? What controls that? Your density. If you are dense, if your energy is dense, if you tie weights around your belt, and you become more dense, you are going to go lower and lower and lower and lower into the ocean. If you have a buoyancy compensator, a balloon that you're holding onto, you're going to go higher and higher and higher and higher. And so just from my experience, from my logical mind, and from my experience of cause and effect in the universe, what I find and what I believe is that the lighter you can make your energy, the higher you are vibrating, the more your energy is flowing through you.